Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and it's time for some adult talk. We're not going to talk right now about longing Bitcoin and shorting bankers. We never have talked about that on this channel, but some people have. Anthony Pompliano and some of the Bitcoin maxis, that's been their whole mantra over the last few years. But today, I'm going to talk to you about the real world. The Goldman Sachs, the JP Morgan world, the financial people that run the world. That's the reason I've been interested in Ripple from day one. It's not even the tech all the time. It's usually the connections. That's the reason that people that follow Ripple and XRP are some of the most educated, because they've been around long enough to know that it's oftentimes more about the connections than it is about anything else. So here we go. So we're going to leave behind long Bitcoin, short the bankers, because that was always a children's game. We're going to talk about Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. I believe that Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan have been behind a lot of the digital asset space from the very, very beginning. I can't prove it per se, but I can show you a lot of things that make you wonder. Okay? I'm going to show you some of them today. Here's the first one I'm going to show you. This was a tweet today where Goldman Sachs says Ether currently looks like the cryptocurrency with the highest real use potential. And I want to comment on this first. I told you a while back that recently, when there was a major dip, I bought some of the Ethereum Grayscale Trust in an IRA. That's an IRA where you don't have many other crypto options other than Ethereum and Bitcoin right now. And so I bought some of that, and for one reason, not because I believe in Ethereum, or especially not proof of work, but because I think that the plan has always been, and this is just me thinking out loud, I think the plan has always been to take this Ethereum thing across the goal line from an investment perspective leading up to the Ethereum 2.0 release. And I believe that it will be sold like hotcakes after that. But I believe that run-up is going to be a run-up that a lot of these big boys want to take it to. And so I'm going to be a part of that. I've got a little bit of that in the Ethereum Grayscale Trust. But I'll tell you point blank, and I can't prove it. Well, I can show you this video, but I've always thought in the back of my mind that Goldman Sachs was behind Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, but behind at least Ethereum from the beginning, partially. Now, I'm not saying they were the only people behind it. I've always believed that. And take some of the people that push it the most. One of the founders is Joseph Lubin. He was at Goldman Sachs. Mike Novogratz was at Goldman Sachs, one of the biggest Ethereum guys. He knew about it very early. And then you've got this, Charles Hoskinson. He was he now is behind Cardano, but he was one of the developers of Ethereum. So don't take it from me, listen to him.
The Ethereum team is really one of the most remarkable that I've ever had the privilege of working on. It's a wonderful mix of both old and new. There are some senior software developers, people who work for Goldman Sachs off Wall Street.
Okay, so that'd be a great question to ask Charles Hoskinson. How did you guys go about getting developers from Goldman Sachs, senior developers no less? I think that would be a fascinating question to have answered. So then we have this. Remember, Brad Garlinghouse said that Ripple would not be the first IPO, but they wouldn't be the last. Well, so far we have Coinbase. The companies that we had in the running over the last 5 or so years have been one Coinbase, probably two Ripple. You had Circle in the game, maybe Kraken, handful of others that were the first movers in this space. And Ripple's been stalled out by Jay Clayton, who represented Goldman Sachs for years. Now the SEC chairman the current SEC chairman was at Goldman Sachs for 18 years. I'm not saying that Goldman Sachs has anything to do with it being stalled. I just think it's interesting that all these people were Goldman Sachs. Now, so look at this. Circle is now going public in a SPAC deal, and they are backed by Goldman Sachs. Next up, let's talk a little JP Morgan. Remember Jed McCaleb, who started Ripple and also started Stellar? We also started Mt. Gox, and he just happened to get out of there right before the feds came in and shut it down, and they also arrested Mark Karpalus. Well, I heard something when I was listening to an old Mt. Gox interview with this guy, Daniel Kellman. I think he was a customer of Mt. Gox, but I think he's also an attorney. I don't know if I need to look into it. I don't know if he was like involved in the bankruptcy proceedings or what. But I want you to listen to what he says in this short clip.
Mt. Gox was totally different than any exchange today. And by way of example, for the longest time, Jed McCaleb banked all the Mt. Gox customers out of his own personal bank account at JP Morgan Chase in New York. Just think about that. Think about any exchange even trying to get a bank account today. It's really hard. And this guy was banking everyone out of a personal bank account.
Okay, so let's think this through. I have watched people have their bank accounts shut down in the last 2 years just because they were buying Bitcoin through Coinbase through their bank account, okay? Let's look at what happened at Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox, this is when it was shut down. It had announced that approximately 850,000 Bitcoins belonging to customers and the company were missing and likely stolen an amount that valued at more than $450 million at the time. So my question is this. This guy, this was back in like 2012, 13, I guess. This guy had a personal, this is what we're to believe. This guy had a personal bank account with JP Morgan out of New York, which would mean right under Jamie Dimon's nose, who's in New York. A personal bank account. Now, if they lost 450 million, that means that they must have had a lot more than that because they didn't lose it all. It has to mean that this personal bank account of Jed McCaleb's had hundreds of millions of dollars flowing through it if he's running the whole operation out of his. You're telling me that JP Morgan of New York didn't see that bank account? Didn't notice anything weird? That is one flew over the cuckoo's nest crazy. That is crazy. I've never heard that in all the time that I've been doing this. I've never heard that he ran that Mt. Gox through his JP Morgan personal bank account out of New York. Never. I've never heard that. I know it now. So let's look at some of the people. This is interesting because I've told you 1,000 times that my father, the official father of the Digital Asset Investor channel, has always told me that nothing happens in finance without JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, but I don't think too often we look at who is JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs. Well, JP Morgan, top 3 or 4 shareholders. Let's do the top 3. 1, Vanguard Group. 2, SSGA Funds. Now that is, for your information, State Street. State Street, which is the same company that just announced they were going to get into the crypto custody business. And number 3, BlackRock. And don't forget, Robbie Mitchnick left Ripple to go to BlackRock to head up their digital asset division back in, I think, 2018. All right, now let's look at who owns, because oh, how this web is woven. Top 10 owners of Goldman Sachs. 1, there's Vanguard Group again. 2, there's State Street again. And 3, there's BlackRock again. So BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street are the people that run Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. Well, who owns State Street? The Vanguard Group. Dodge and Cox, we won't really pay attention to them, but State Street and BlackRock. Well, who owns BlackRock? The Vanguard Group and BlackRock. So BlackRock owns itself and State Street. Okay. Who owns Vanguard Group? BlackRock, the Vanguard Group. That's pretty much, I think, BlackRock and Vanguard. So maybe what my dad needs to do is revise this statement to nothing is done in finance without BlackRock, the Vanguard Group, and State Street. We're not done yet. So remember that SBI Holdings is the largest outside shareholder in both R3 and Ripple. Well, who owns SBI Holdings? Well, the Bank of New York Mellon is one that owns, and I'm just picking out the ones that we know. There's JP Morgan, and there's State Street. Okay? So now let's look at who owns BNY Mellon. Berkshire Hathaway, the Vanguard Group, and there's BlackRock, and there's State Street. Okay? Isn't it how sneaky? Isn't Warren Buffett just that sneaky? He's been talking down about Bitcoin and all this for years now. Wouldn't it be just the right Warren Buffett type of move for him to have known about XRP all along? That would be quite the thing. Okay, so here we go. We are starting to see the crackdown on Binance, okay? Binance is now, Santander, who's a Ripple investor and a Ripple customer, is the latest bank to block payments to Binance. And then we have this, breaking news. Poland's finance watchdog has issued a consumer warning about the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance. The Polish Financial Supervision Authority published a statement. I mean, this is almost like a ballet going on across the world of shutting Binance down. The Polish Financial Supervision Authority published a statement stressing that the company's operations are unregulated in Central European countries. Okay, and then Brian sent me this. This is Senator Elizabeth Warren. She has sent a letter to the SEC Chairman Gary Gensler. Here's a text from the letter. This is, let's see, she has asked for a response by July 28th. Gensler and Warren are uniquely close, and it is likely SEC saw this letter before it was publicly sent, okay? And I said the greatest wealth transfer was never going to happen without the traditional financial big boys being the ones allowed to collect the new wealth. Only a handful of chosen crypto exchanges will be allowed to play in this new world. Looks like the big boys are almost ready. And this is her letter. I write to request information regarding the Security and Exchange Commission's authority to properly regulate cryptocurrency exchanges and to determine if Congress needs to act to ensure that the SEC has proper authority to close existing gaps on regulation that leave investors and consumers vulnerable. So, as usual, everything is done under the guise of they're worried about us consumers out here, aren't they? Right? Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan always win. And they always are. That's who they're having dinner with. All these politicians and all these bureaucrats. They're whining and dining with the Goldman and the boys, but they're all so worried about us out here, right? And then you get down here, and it says these are the things that I ask that you provide a response to the following. Do you believe that cryptocurrency exchanges are currently operating in a fair, orderly, and efficient manner? If not, what problems has the SEC identified? In other words, folks, it's the exchanges they're worried about. They're telling you they're worried about the consumers, but let me tell you the dirty little secret, what they're really worried about. They want this great wealth transfer to go to the big boys, the white shoe boys, the Goldman Sachs, the JP Morgan, the BNY Mellon, the Citigroup, the Morgan Stanley, all of their friends, the same people that donate to all of their campaigns. That has always been the plan. They're not going to let this, now I'm not saying they're not going to let a few of these crypto exchanges through, but guess who's going to get to pick and choose? Who gets the broker-dealer licenses? Because, trust you me, they're going to call most of these things securities. They could even call XRP a security. And if they do, it'll be okay, because they're just going to ask you to put your XRP with Goldman or JP Morgan or one of these people that's there to save you and take care of you, the consumer. Think I'm crazy, huh? Well, I'll show you some video to prove that I'm not, but first I want to show you what I sent to Senator Warren. I said, can we get some clarity on Jay Clayton, Ethereum, and the conflicts of interest while we're at it? Okay? And then I just wanted to remind you of this. I tweeted this out back in early July. My igloo in Georgia is still for sale if you believe this Ripple lawsuit is about anything other than power plays. No matter what anyone says, Gensler's the top dog. He can make this go away. Yesterday, nothing happens without Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. And I said, As you begin to watch them crack down on crypto exchanges and hand this new asset class off to JP Morgan, Goldman, and the White Shoe Boys, remember, this was always the plan. It's time for the short the banks children to grow up. Like it or not, there will always be rulers. Listen to what Gary Gensler and Tim Draper talk about in this clip.
You mentioned Jamie Dimon, so let's bring it back to Jamie and JP Morgan. What do you think is going to be the thing that they will have to change the most or lose market share and somebody else is going to do better, faster, serve their clients better than JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs?
You can just hear the bankers panicking right now.
But what
feel the panic in their voices.
But here's business that is most
here.
By the way, can you not tell where whose side Gary Gensler's on? You better believe this guy has spent his life at MIT. This guy, I guarantee you, has dinners with the Jamie Dimons of the world and will do whatever they tell him to do. That's how the real world works. Look, I love Tim Draper. I think he's a great guy. I think he's one of the good guys in this space. But we don't need banks. Bitcoin. That's not how this movie ends. And I think that ultimately Tim Draper probably realizes that because he's an XRP holder. Because how do I know? Because I asked him on video. I've shown it to you before. He knows that how this story really ends. He's not dumb, but I do think he's fighting the good fight.
Here's what always happens. The first thing that happens is they try to go, oh, it's nothing. And they did that. I mean, that's with every new industry, every new technology comes along, the powers that be, the incumbents, the status quo, all say, it's nothing. Don't ignore the man behind the...
Does any of this sound familiar yet? Because it's about to sound real familiar.
This is nothing. And then all of a sudden it's too big to get in there. They're going, oh my God, I got to face this thing. And then they all line up and they wrap their arms together and they say, we're not letting this happen. And then it keeps going. And then they say, okay, well, let's sue them. Or let's go get the government.
There's another thing they do. They adopt the technology. I think.
No, that's at the end.
They will adopt this technology.
No, this is the last thing that.
Yeah, you're about to see the last thing, but first he's about to tell you something interesting.
No,
yeah, it's like
it's after. It's after the press planning. They plant the press stories. They put out lawsuits.
Interesting.
Create as much of a fuss as possible. They try to get their government friends involved. And
they get their government friends involved? Who would they be?
Oh God, this thing's happening.
That clip right there lays it down about as good as any clip I've ever seen. By the way, Chris Giancarlo, who I happen to believe is one of the good guys in this thing. I met him down in Miami, saw him walking around the Bitcoin conference, and I think he's one of the good guys. I think he has good intentions, and he works on the Digital Dollar Project. He's going to be on Fox News. I think he already was on Fox News. I couldn't find the clip, but I'm going to look for it after this video, maybe give it to you tomorrow. I wanted to remind you all that Link2, who is one of my sponsors, and I have all the links in the description of this video, these guys still have Link2 shares on the platform for accredited investors only. Uphold shares up there, Kraken, and remember, Uphold has a 6-month timeline. They're thinking about trying to go IPO as long as everything goes normally from now till then. That's interesting stuff. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button. Tell your friends and family that nothing happens in finance without JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, State Street, and the Vanguard Group. Thank you for listening.